So then one set of dumbbells, I do recommend two if you have two, but we are going to be doing a lot of shoulders today. So having a little bit of a lighter weight will be a little bit helpful for that. Today we're switching things up just a little bit. We're going to do 4 rounds of 4 movements instead of 3 rounds of 6 movements. So we're gonna get a lot of work in on our shoulders and our glutes. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started with what we're doing today. We are gonna be doing 40 seconds of work, 20 seconds of rest, 4 times through. So the first movement here, we're gonna have our dumbbells. We're gonna do some lateral raises, my favorite movement. So we're gonna have our hands outside of our legs to start. Palms are facing behind us. We're going to drive our elbows up until we're kind of making a T here and back down. So we want to stop as we get to parallel and then come right back down. So that's going to be our lateral raise. And then our second movement here, we're going to work on the shoulders as a whole. So we'll kind of feel this all around. And this one is Bully's favorite. So I had to put this in here. I also love these ones too. This is like my favorite day. We're doing glutes and delts. So we're going to do around the world raises. So we're going to have our hands out in front, coming all the way up, over and around, making sure we're not touching the dumbbells at the top, and then coming down nice and slow. So keeping that core nice and tight, bringing the arms all the way up overhead, and then back down again. So that's going to be the around the world raise. And then after that, our last 2 movements are going to be on the ground. I feel like someone moved the setup here yesterday. All right, here we go. Now we can see me on the ground. So we're going to start off, we're going to do single leg glute bridges. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to do 1 round on one leg, 1 round on the other leg kind of situation. So we're going to do just like a normal glute bridge, feet are hip width apart. The leg you are not using, you can put it up in the air, you can cross your leg, you can hold it down there, whatever feels most natural. We're going to push through the ground, squeezing the glute all the way to the top, and then back down, keeping that core nice and tight so our back is flat, squeezing that glute, keeping that glute engaged, and then right back down. So that's going to be our third movement. And then finally, again, on the ground, we're going to do glute bridge marches. So it is pretty similar to that single leg glute bridge. So we're going to push our heels into the ground until our hips are in line with the knees and the shoulders. And then 1 knee at a time, we're going to drive up like we're marching, back down, and then the other leg and back down. So we want to use that core to drive the knee up, and then keeping the opposite glute really nice and squeezed. So that way we're not rocking back and forth. So we're going to be nice and stable in our hips. So that is going to be our whole circuit for today. So like I said, less movement. So we're going to do more times. So we have more rounds of this. Again, 40 seconds of work, 20 seconds of rest. And then we're going to go ahead and get started with our warm up here. So we are going to be on the ground. And our first movement, we're going to go ahead and do a plank to pike. So we're going to get on our hands and toes into a nice plank position, keeping that core nice and tight. We're going to push up into a nice pike position, getting a nice stretch through the shoulders, through our back. We can even pedal those heels into the ground, get a nice calf stretch, opening up the backs of our legs. And then we can go ahead and go back into our plank. And we're going to do that 2 more times. So pushing up, giving that nice shoulder stretch. Again, can pedal those heels, getting a nice calf stretch. And back down. Awesome job, y'all. And last one, pushing up into our pike. Getting that nice stretch in. And from here, we can go ahead and just walk our hands towards our feet because we are going to be in this position for the second part of the warm-up. So second part of the warm-up, once we walk our hands to our toes, we're going to do a few deep squats to stand. So it's going to open up our hips and our hamstrings a little bit. So we're going to have our hands on our toes. We're going to drop our hips down as far as we can, get into a nice deep squat as far as we can go. Might be a little bit uncomfortable. That's okay. And then we're going to exhale and stand back up. So still grabbing onto our toes. We're going to do that 2 more times. Coming back down into that nice deep squat, getting as low as you can. Opening up those hips. Nice job breathing through. Exhaling, standing up. And then we're going to go ahead and do 1 more of those. So still holding onto our toes. Dropping those hips down. Getting that nice opening of the hips. Feels so nice. And we're going to go ahead and stand up. And then from there, we can go ahead and stand all the way up. And we're ready to rock and roll. So I'm going to get the timer started. We're starting with our lateral raises. So getting those dumbbells ready at our sides, getting going here in 3, 2, 1, and go. So we have our dumbbells at our sides, coming all the way up like we're making a T and back down. We want to make sure we're driving with the elbows. So I want us to pretend or imagine like we have a plane of glass at our shoulders. We're breaking the glass with our shoulders, or sorry, with our elbows as we come up, and then not letting those dumbbells come near each other. It's going to give us that nice tension on the shoulders. Definitely going to feel the burn by the end. We really want to keep those shoulder blades pinned down and back like we're squeezing an orange right here, so our back is nice and flat. 3, 2, 1. All right. Next up, we have around the world raises. So we're gonna have our palms facing forward, and then we'll go all the way up, over and around, and back down. Gonna get ready here, going in 3, 2, 1. So same thing, starting with those dumbbells outside. If we come all the way in, we're gonna lose some of that tension. So coming all the way out, all the way up, over and around, and back down. I'm hitting a TRX thing, of course. I think that thing is always in my way. All right, coming up all the way, making sure those dumbbells are not touching at the top, controlling the weight up, controlling the weight down. So at one point, we're gonna kind of pull the weight up. So we're gonna feel that in the fronts of our shoulders as well as the backs of our shoulders, especially in the beginning. This part, we're gonna feel more in the back, and then coming around to the front as we come up to the top. 3, 2, 1. Whew, okay, I think those 2 back to back, my shoulders are starting to feel it. All right, next up we have our single leg glute bridges. So we're gonna down on the ground. And again, we're gonna do 2 rounds on one leg and 2 rounds on the other leg. So you can alternate them, do 2 back to back, however, whatever feels natural. 3, 2, 1. So we're pushing through the ground, coming up 1 foot and back down. So again, placing your foot that you're not using wherever feels most comfortable. So I know for me, extending my leg up too much, too high, really puts a lot of pressure on my hip. So I do like to kind of put it down low as if I were going to be doing a regular 2-leg glute bridge. So again, whatever feels most comfortable, as long as we're exploding through, driving through that glute, pushing the heel, big toe, little toe into the ground. We got that core nice and tight, keeping it engaged like we're crushing an apple here. 3, 2, 1. All right, great job, everyone. Next up, glute bridge marches. So we're gonna hold that glute bridge at the top, alternating, bringing one knee up at a time, just like we were doing a regular standing march. 3, 2, 1. So whichever leg that we are using on the ground, we're really driving that heel, big toe, little toe, as we keep that core engaged, driving the other heel up. Really important to tuck that pelvis. I just felt my back kind of getting arched a little bit. So we want to bring the butt to the belly button. That's what we want to imagine. Lock it in, keep that core nice and tight. And then if we exhale, as we drive the knee up, it's going to help us use our core instead of our legs or our hip flexors. So that can make them pretty tired. 3, 2, 1. All right. Round 1 is done. I know it kind of goes by a little bit faster when we have less movements, but I feel like we're going to get a really nice feeling in all of our muscles by using them so much. So we got our lateral raises, starting out with round 2 at the top. 3, 2, 1. So coming all the way up to the sides, back down, squeezing through those shoulders, driving the elbows up. And we want to control the weight up, control the weight down. Really making sure too, if we feel ourselves kind of swinging the weight up and back down, the weight might be a little bit too heavy. We really want to be nice and tall through here, just moving our arms down and back. If you also notice from this angle, my hands are slightly in front. That's going to make sure we're not putting too much pressure on the shoulder joint, because if they're all the way back, it's not going to feel as good. 3, 2, 1. All right. Nice job, y'all. Next up, we have our around the world raises. So same thing, keep those dumbbells out. Palms are forward this time, all the way up and around. Getting ready here. 3, 2, 1. So coming all the way up, over and around, and then back down. Again, if you see from this angle on these ones, my hands are again slightly out in front, not coming all the way back. Again, that's going to put so much pressure on the actual joint, which we don't want because we already have loose joints as it is. So, and especially to the shoulder joint is not very big. It's really only held together. Like our arms are attached to our bodies really by our collarbones because our shoulder blades aren't really touching the rest of our body. So we really want to protect those shoulder joints, make our shoulders nice and strong. 3, 2, 1. All right, nice job. That's why I'm so adamant about training shoulders all the time with y'all, because we got to make them strong so we can protect our joints. All right, we got our single leg glute bridges. Next, this time you can do whichever foot you would like. 3, 2, 1. So I'm going to do the opposite leg because we are doing glute bridge marches. So we are also getting a little bit of single leg work in there as well. And I think it'll be too much. My left glute is still feeling it from the first round. I think that's what I get for training right before this. All right, keeping that core nice and tight. So we're tucking our pelvis, butt to belly button, lock it in with that core. So we want to engage the core by either crushing that apple that's sitting right here, or we're pretending like we're about to get punched in the stomach, bracing ourselves, pushing through that heel, big toe, little toe. 3, 2, 1. All right, next up we have our marches. So again, making sure we're using that core, keeping those legs nice and loose, meaning we're not pulling with our quads, we're pulling with our core. 3, 2, 1. So we got butt to belly button, it's locked in, squeezing those glutes. Keep the glutes squeezed the whole time. It does help if we exhale as we drive the knee up to help keep that core engaged and to make sure that we are not using our quads to pull. I definitely tend to feel that sometimes as well. So that's always the reminder I tell myself is to exhale, pull through the core instead of pulling through the hips. And that's how we get a nice strong core that will help support our back, especially after sitting during the day. 3, 2, 1. All right. I don't know about y'all, but my glutes are already feeling it. All right. Round 2 done. We're ready for round 3. We're halfway through. We're starting with our lateral raises. So getting those dumbbells ready at our sides. 3, 2, 1. I think I got up too fast. All right. Keeping those elbows are driving the arms. The more we focus on really pulling, so if we're really pulling through that elbow, that's going to engage the shoulder versus pulling through the wrist is really not going to engage the shoulder as much as we want to. So we're driving through the elbows. Again, hands slightly out in front, pinkies towards the ceiling. I can't believe I hadn't said that yet. What I mean by that is as we come up, you can see my pinky is towards the ceiling. So that's what I mean by that. So our pinkies are up. 3, 2, 1. All right, great job. We got our around the world raises next. I do also think we are going to have a little bit of time for a core circuit at the end. So we're going to kind of jump into that as soon as we finish our final round of marches. 3, 2, 1. Pretty much going to do 2 minutes straight of core work, which I know we all love. Keeping those hands out in front ever so slightly. Control the weight up, control the weight down. We plop down at the bottom. We're really doing our muscles a disservice. We get a lot of engagement out of the eccentric or the lowering portion in this case. And that's what really is going to help us get nice and strong around the whole entire shoulder. It also is going to give us a little bit more a sensation here, which also makes it feel like we're working a little bit harder. 3, 2, 1. All right. Back on the ground, glute bridge marches. So the first 2 rounds, sorry, we have single leg glute bridges. I'm skipping ahead. If the first 2 rounds we did the same leg, we're now to the other leg. Or if you're alternating, we're back to our first leg. 3, 2, 1. I know everyone tends to have different ways that they like to split things up. So that's why I usually like to leave that up to y'all, because what works for me is not always going to work for you. And what works for you might not work for everyone else in the class. So that's why I do like to kind of say whatever works best, what feels best for you. I'm going to do what feels best for me. And if that also feels good for you, perfect. If not, we can kind of work together, find the best way to go about some of these movements. 3, 2, 1. All right. And now we have our marches. We're getting ready for that. We do have a few seconds though, so we can kind of close our eyes for a second. It's nice and early for some of us. Still pretty early. Close your eyes. We're getting ready here. 3, 2, 1. I feel like it is a little bit dangerous for me to do a lot of groundwork in the mornings, but that's okay. We're doing great. Keeping that pelvis tucked. So we don't want that arch in the back. We want to bring the butt up to the belly button to lock it in with that core. Keep those glutes squeezed. Drive the heels into the ground. If we really push through the heel, big toe, little toe, that's really going to help us engage those glutes. Keeping those glutes engaged, so that way we're not rocking back and forth. Because if we're rocking back and forth, our core is not as engaged. So keep those glutes squeezed, keep the core nice and tight. 3, 2, 1. Oh man, good glute workout today. All right, we got one more round. We're gonna stand on back up. We're gonna get ready for our last round of lateral raises and then around the world raises. And then we'll be done with shoulders for now. 3, 2, 1. So coming out and down. We kind of act like we're also reaching for those walls as we drive the elbows up, really engaging those shoulders. This movement is actually really good to give us that nice capped look on the shoulders, which is why I love this movement. So it is a little bit more for the aesthetics versus a functionality, and that's okay for us to train like that sometimes. I know I like to preach lifting and moving and practicing patterns that we do outside of the gym. 3, 2, 1. But sometimes I like to lift for the way things look, and that's okay. But it does still help strengthen our shoulders, protecting those shoulder joints, as I was saying a few rounds ago. All right, we're getting ready for around the world raises here. Palms facing forward. 3, 2, 1. So we're coming all the way up, over and around, and back down. These ones definitely important to keep that weight nice and light. Again, if we're starting to feel ourselves swing those hips back and forth to get the weight up, that weight is too heavy. We don't really want to see any movement other than in those shoulders. So really keeping that core nice and tight, having a nice strong pillar, which is shoulders, hips, and torso, really helps pull the weight a little bit easier and can help us really perform movements a little bit better when we do have that strong foundational core. 3, 2, 1. All right, we are ready for our last round of our single leg glute bridges. So again, if we're alternating, we're back to the second leg. If you did 2 on one leg, then we're on that second one of our other leg. 3, 2, 1. So tucking that pelvis, so butt to belly button, lock that in, pushing through the heel, big toe, little toe. So that heel, again, is what's going to help us engage that glute. We want to make sure we're keeping that glute squeezed. If you also know that you have a little bit of an imbalance, like I know for me, my right glute just does not fire sometimes. So honestly, sometimes I'll just place my hand on my butt to make sure that I am engaging it and to make sure that I am squeezing the muscle fully and using my glutes instead of my quads or my hamstrings. 3, 2, 1. All right, great job. We have our marches left, and then we have 20 seconds to go into our core circuits. We're gonna do 2 movements for the core circuit. We're gonna do dead bugs and toe touches. We're gonna go through those 2 times each. But we have our marches first. 3, 2, 1. So keep, again, glutes are squeezed, core is tight. Exhaling, coming up, pulling through the core. Again, just like what I was just saying with the glutes, if we're not sure if we're pulling through the core, you can always place your hands on your stomach and you can focus on feeling the core engage and pulling those knees up. Keeping it like tight as if we were crushing an apple that was sitting right here, or anything, crush anything sitting on your stomach, or we're bracing ourselves. 3, 2, 1. All right. We're going to do some dead bugs here today. So we're going to stay on our back for the whole time. If you would like to use dumbbells, feel free. If not, we're just going to use nothing. We're going to keep those knees above the hips, hands above those shoulders. 3, 2, 1. So we're going to extend all the way out, opposite arm, opposite leg. Exhale, come back in. And then on the other side, same thing. Coming all the way out, all the way back in. I also am not good at math, so I'm only going to do this. We're just going to do 2 rounds of dead bugs, and then we're going to call it a day, and we're going to do our cool down. So that is the plan here. So my apologies for that little white lie. But we want to make sure too, we're still using that core, pushing our belly button into the ground. So that way there's nothing that can fit under our backs. 3, 2, 1. All right, nice job. We're getting lots of core work today too from our glute bridges. That's actually a great core exercise because it also works on our low back strength. And then this one, we're working on our lower core and our low back strength as well by pushing that belly button into the ground and pulling those legs back in. All right, last round here. 3, 2, 1. So opposite arm, opposite leg extends out. Exhaling, coming back in. This is probably my favorite core exercise because it does work on the pillar as a whole. So shoulders, hips, and torso. Really important, again, keeping those quads nice and loose. It's really easy to pull in with our hips instead of with our core. So we really want to focus on exhaling, coming back up. Great job, everyone. 3, 2, 1. And that is going to be all the time we have for the circuit. So nice job. Go ahead, grab a sip of water if you need it. And then we're going to go ahead and make our way onto the ground for our cool down. And once we're on the ground, we're going to be laying on our back, continuing to lay on our back here. So we're going to stretch out our glutes a little bit more since we did work our glutes a lot. So we're on our backs here. We're going to have one foot on the ground. So I have my left foot on the ground. I'm going to take my right ankle, place it above the left knee. So we have a nice figure 4 here. And if this tension feels good, feel free to stay there. If you need a little bit more tension, go ahead and interlace those fingers and grab either behind the knee or in front of the shin, pulling that knee towards the chest. And we're going to start to slow the breath down here. And so when we're in this position, we're going to feel that stretch right on the outside of the right glute. So right under that glute, stretching out our piriformis. It's a tiny, tiny little muscle right underneath our glutes. That can get pretty tight from a lot of glute work, a lot of squatting, a lot of sitting. If you do a lot of cycling, it can get pretty tight too. So we're just going to breathe into the tightness here. I know mine is pretty tight just from that and my workout this morning. So this feels very nice today. Slowing down the breath, nice big deep inhales. And let's go ahead and do one more deep breath on this side. And after we finish our exhale, we can gently bring our left foot back to the ground and then the right foot. And we're gonna do that same thing on the other side. So we're gonna take the left ankle above the right knee. And again, if that feels good, go ahead and stay there. And if you need a little bit more attention, we're gonna interlace our fingers and grab either behind the knee or in front of the shin. We're going to pull that knee towards the chest. I apparently lost my ability to use words properly, so my apologies there. But we're pulling that knee towards the chest, taking nice big deep breaths. You might notice that one side was tighter than the other, and that's totally normal. We all have one side that's usually a little bit tighter or looser or weaker or stronger. And so we just want to breathe into that tightness, relax the body. And we're going to do one more deep breath here. And then we can go ahead and gently bring that foot back towards the ground. And then the other foot. And then we're going to go ahead and roll over when we're ready onto our hands and knees. And we're going to finish out with a couple quadruped rocks here. It's going to just help us open up those hips a little bit more, stretch out really everything, and also work on our core a little bit more. So we can take our knees as wide or as narrow as we need to. My knees are slightly wider than my hips. So if you see from this angle, just slightly wider, not too much, but enough where I'm going to feel that nice stretch in my hips here. So we're going to keep that core nice and tight. We're going to inhale, rock back, glutes towards the heels. And exhale, coming back to that starting position. So we're going to do that a few times. Inhaling as we rock back. Nice big deep belly breath, feel in that low back and the hips expand. And exhaling, coming back to center. Let's go ahead and do that 2 more times, rocking back. And coming forward. And last one, inhaling, rocking back. And exhaling, coming forward. And once we're done with that last one, we can go ahead. You're more than welcome to stay on the ground. You can kind of close your eyes for a minute if you need to, but that is going to be all the time I have for today's class. Thank you both so much for joining me. I hope you had a nice workout. As a reminder, we do have our Design to Run training program starting in a few weeks. So you can actually sign up at any time. You sign up by getting a consult with either me or with Quinn, and you can find all of that information up on SharePoint. And then this month, we are doing a raffle in San Rafael with the cafe. So if you come into the office, you get a workout in, or you go and purchase a meal at the cafe, you will get a ticket and you can earn some Exos swag and a couple meals from the cafe. So we're really excited about that. But thank you both for joining me. Nice job. And I'll see y'all soon.